You know what they say? You can take the kiwi out of New Zealand, but you can't take the New Zealand habits out of the kiwi. And today you're going to find out exactly what I mean about that.
And then thinking, it needs to be sprung steel. So what can I use? Went in the kitchen and I just saw a little egg whisk sitting there on the side and thought, that'll do it.
What are you going to do, Bri, if you find out that whisk was an inheritance from that lady's great-great-grandmother who's handed it down? In this week's show, we're coming to you from Normandy in France. And we're going to share with you if everything in France is ooh la la or whether c'est terrible.
Hello.
Hello and welcome to It's a Drama Podcast. I'm Liz.
And I'm Brian.
And today we are bringing you this episode from Normandy in France. We are sitting outside our beautiful house sit that we've been here for a week. And yeah, we're just going to talk to you about, well, there's a few things we want to talk to you about actually. We want to talk to you about house sitting, things that we'd forgotten about France that, you know, when we moved to New Zealand 13 years ago, and I'd forgotten all about these things in France, you know, just...
I know you do, don't you?
Yeah. We're going to talk about them. And then the last thing I wanted to, well, a couple of things. The last thing I want to talk to you about is how Brian... It's probably going to be the story of the week, actually. Let's make that the story of the week.
Got to be the story of the week.
Brian was a true Kiwi. You are going to be so proud of him. En français, Kiwi.
Oui, monsieur.
And then stay around to the end if you want to know how to travel and not pay for it. Basically, not pay for any accommodation like we're doing now. So stay around to the end and I'll tell you about the wonderful thing called house sitting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, let's start off. We're here in Normandy. I hope you can see that, and it's going to keep the focus. So we're going to have a little bit of cider.
Yeah, we
Ready?
thought.
Hey. Whoa, what's straight over the stopwatch.
Oh, Brian, we're getting a bit giddy. We're getting a bit silly.
It's just, well, it's
wild.
It's 3:15 on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
And the FA Cup is about to start in a few hours, so I'm quite happy about that.
Yeah, so we've got to be quick. But let's just talk about that for a minute. So it's 3:15 in the afternoon and we're drinking a glass of cider. Cheers, by the way,
Yeah,
Brian.
cheers. Yeah.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers. And the thing that I'd forgotten...
Ooh la la.
C'est bon?
Oui, c'est bon.
C'est bon.
Oh.
C'est très bon.
Très, très bon.
So just to give you a little bit of backstory in case you're new to the channel, we're Liz and Brian, husband and wife. We emigrated to New Zealand from England 13 years ago. And we have been making podcasts for the last year or so, 18 months, whatever it is, about living in New Zealand and moving to New Zealand. But then for my 50th birthday, Brian booked a surprise trip to Europe, a 6-month trip to Europe.
Just a little trip.
Yeah, he bought, just a little one. He bought a car off the internet, a replica of our old 205 Peugeot.
We had a 1.8 diesel Peugeot, but it was a 2-door. So I went out and bought I keep looking because it's right next to us.
You didn't go out and buy it, you bought it on the
internet.
internet?
No, I bought it on the internet, yeah.
From New Zealand?
I just wanted to buy something that would hopefully be reliable. And the GTI 1.9 was classed as a reliable car back in its day. Yeah. And it's a nut and bolt restoration, so there's a few teething problems with it, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So yeah, we got this car and we're driving from England down through Europe to Greece, where we're going to meet our children, have a month's holiday, and then drive back. And then we don't know what we're doing after that. We're making it up as we go along. So if you're new to the channel, that's what we're doing. We're now in France. We started in Belgium.
We started in London, but then went to Belgium.
And then went to Belgium. Yeah. And we left Belgium last week, had the most gorgeous drive down through Belgium. Belgium, I can't believe we've never been. And
no,
I know
it's not a huge place, Belgium, is it, by any stretch of the imagination? We were saying, once before, you can fit it into the size of a Targo, but there's 11, 12 million people there. So but it was great, wasn't it? To see those old cities.
Fantastic. Just driving along the roads in Belgium, it was just... It's just really quiet. The people, we've said before, I think the people are just super friendly, really friendly. Yeah. All can't wait to try and speak English to you. So, like you go to some countries and they get a bit annoyed if you don't try and speak their language. And that's even in like the rural part. We just drove out to this tiny little village, and even the people like living in those tiny little villages, I mean, you expect it in a big city where they're trying to get tourist money and things, but in tiny little villages, they're just like, yep, they were so accommodating, so friendly, just went out of their way to help you. So yeah, absolutely love Belgium. So we drove down there and came to France, and we're now here in our house
In France,
Yeah.
in a 16th century house. Apparently that was used for making lace at one time, and it was called what was the posh house? It wasn't the boudoir. What was it called? She called it, didn't she?
No, isn't a boudoir somewhere where you
Yes, I think it is.
go and do dirty things?
Not dirty things, like go to the toilet, you mean?
Oh, is that what it is it? What's that place called where you go and have sex?
A brothel.
Oh yeah, that's it,
Yeah.
brothel.
Not quite the same.
I knew it was
But
a word like that.
Whatever the French for posh, this was known as the posh house
Yeah.
in the small village that we're in, because they see, like, you might just be able to see up the side here, the shape of the roof. It's very classic sort of French roof.
Oh, it's lovely that cider, right?
Is it? I just heard you
really
gulp
nice.
it. Let's have a look.
Normandy cider.
Very good.
Anyway,
Taste
so
of apples.
we'd forgotten that the French have these long lunch hours that all the shops close in the middle of the day.
Yep. And it still goes on. You just think in 2022, are the French shops going to close at 12 o'clock? And yes, they do.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
drive through the villages and they're just, all the borders, all the shutters are down and it's just
Yeah.
absolutely
No one to be
deserted.
seen. Yeah.
This is, again, we're talking about where we are in Normandy. We're in a Madre, it's called. Madre,
Yeah.
I think you pronounce it.
MADRE with the accent over
yeah.
the E. Yeah.
And it's just, so it's in the middle of nowhere. So maybe Paris and all things like Lyon, I don't know.
Yeah, but those things, they're always going to be the big hypermarkets that it's too hard for them to close, so they
Yeah.
stay open. But, the majority of regular sized sort of supermarkets, they just bang, they're shut.
But can you imagine being somewhere? Well, I don't know how I'd feel if I was working and then all of a sudden the owner said, okay, we're closing up now for 2 hours.
But some supermarkets close for 4 hours. Some shops close for 4 hours. So they close from 12 till 4, so they then stay open that little bit later till
How do
around
you know
about
that?
7.
I've never seen that.
I saw it on Google when I was
Oh, did
looking
you now?
for a place, and it
Oh,
says
that's okay.
doesn't open till 4. And it was a supermarket.
But that doesn't mean it closed at 12, Brian.
Yeah, they do. They do. And the
Right.
minimum is 2, but some of them close till 4 because they want to stay open for the people who have been working for another couple of hours. Otherwise, it'll all close at the same time. Because
Yeah.
France is kind of like an 8-hour day, but it's split up.
We used to live in France. I think we've told you this before. We used to live in Chamonix. That's why our French is so good.
We. I don't say
it?
yes.
And Brian was working as a trade. Well, what were you doing?
Tradie. More
doing
more
a roofer, weren't you?
More,
Being a
more of a
roofer.
builder. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's it.
I've been an artisan builder. So we were doing shakes and shingles and things like that. So cedar shakes.
That was back in the days before Google, and you lied to the guy who employed you and said you were a builder.
I could do building. Yeah.
So he couldn't just Google and go, oh yeah, where's your
Yeah.
qualifications? But actually, in saying that, you were the best one on the building site.
Oh, it was
so-
great because
Yeah.
you could bring different things, and if a bit of plumbing popped up, you just like, yep, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it was
how
good.
did you feel though, Bri, when when you didn't know about life in France,
Yes.
right? And you turned up and you were there working as a builder,
the builder? Yep.
with your Canadian. He was Canadian,
It's
wasn't he?
The guy who owned the company was Canadian.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
How did you feel when he goes, right, Brian, 12 o'clock, let's clock off then?
Well, you just think you're going to get half an hour, and I'll see you at 2, and you're like,
What, did he just leave you?
yeah, because he'd go off and down for a swift one down the
Oh,
pub,
would he?
maybe
And what
something
did
like
you
that.
do? What did you do with your 2 hours?
Sat on the site and put my feet up.
And did what?
Nothing. Just the usual. Sat there. Back in a minute.
No.
Smelling a beer.
What did you really do? What, did you have something to eat? Did you make your lunch last
Do you know
2
what?
hours?
Because it was only a small town that we lived in, and so you were no more than 5 minutes from really anywhere. Because Chamonix is not a big place. So wherever we were working, he would drop me back at my place, then he'd go home for 2 hours.
Would he?
Yeah, and then he'd pick me back up. So I'd just go in and make yourself some lunch, and then sit and read for an hour or so. It was
Sit and
great.
read?
Sit and read.
What did you read?
I was reading my James Clavell Asian saga. So I think I started with Shogun or something like that. I think at the time, I think that was the one of the ones that had been written, and then through to King Rat
Oh, I love that book.
and Noble House.
Yeah, I love King Rat.
Taipan.
But what I'm saying is, I don't know, but I just want to get on with my day, get it done, and then get home. But in France, they take that big block off
Yep.
and then stay later.
Yes, they do. Yeah. So we'd wait till 6. Yeah. So you wouldn't be finishing till 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, you on site for 8, stop at 12, and then, so, I mean, you never really wanted to ever do any overtime. So, in England, you could finish at 5 and think, I'll just carry on working till 6. You get an extra hour of overtime in, or an hour and a half in, depending on what time you started. But here, it's just, you don't get a break in the morning, but someone might make a cup of coffee, or what you tended to do, we'd stop at the boulangerie on the way, pick up a coffee and a pastry, eat that on the way in the van. It didn't take long, obviously, because it's only like 5 or 6 minutes away. So you whip down your pan of raisin. And,
I thought you were going to say whip down your pants then.
Steady.
Oh, it's good, this Normandy cider.
Let's have a little more cider on that point. So I think.
Anyway, so that's that point. So we'd forgotten about. Oh, it's good having cider with our podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. I like it.
We'd forgotten about that, the long closing hours.
Yeah, and it still happens. I mean, Spain have the what do they call it? Siesta.
Yeah. So, and then the second thing that I noticed yesterday that I love this about France so much is the physical contact, the greetings.
Yes.
And it reminded me of the Māori people in New Zealand, because the Māori are very affectionate.
Yeah,
aren't
they do. They'll hug and
they,
squeeze and slap each other.
Put their faces together and do the hugging and yeah, it's just. But the French people, they either kiss or they were doing this. What did they do yesterday? They went like that. Everyone they saw, they were like coming to a table and
hand on the shoulder, just like bump, bump,
and I just thought, oh, I love it.
Yeah, or it's a kiss, but it's not a kiss. It's just an air kiss, isn't it?
Like, just.
Yeah. Very touchy.
Yeah. Whereas in New Zealand, like I say, apart from the Māori, Māori are very affectionate, and they always want to hug, and it's quite stand up. You wouldn't like go up to your mates on the building site.
You tend not to, no.
Kiss, would you, Brian?
No, for sure. No,
Have you ever done that?
No, they just save that for the rugby at the weekends when they can touch each other.
What would you do if you were on a building site in New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
And your new apprentice, he was just new, say, and he didn't know you that well, and he came over and he went, I want to hug you, Brian, and give you a kiss.
We need to talk.
No, I think it's nice, Brian.
It doesn't bother me. With being European, it's just like, and living in France, it's nice to hug people. What's wrong in hugging?
No, I'm not saying that. But when I go home, when we get back to New Zealand, I want to see more physical contact.
Yes, down the cafe, I'm going to be hugging everybody.
No, it's true though. Joking aside,
you just don't do it.
It's just lovely to see. Yeah. It just
you've got to get it back, haven't you? And that's what you do. You get it back because that's the culture.
Yeah.
And so that's why you do it.
Yeah. Oh.
It's very nice.
Right. What else? The other thing that we'd forgotten about was it has to be the food. It's just oh my God.
Yeah.
Going in the supermarkets, we're self-catering obviously because we're house sitting.
Yeah.
And even in like little supermarkets in the middle of nowhere, there's masses of produce and really, really good quality, loads of it. Produce, isn't it?
There is, yeah. It's
like last night we went and we got a load of scallops and lovely big piece of steak and
just all the range of
making my mouth water thinking about that.
The ranges of pâtés and saucissons and salami type things and
cheeses.
Just the cheeses is just like
masses and masses of cheeses that you can get, and you're like,
I never understand. Even England is the same as this. You go into a supermarket and there's like most of the cheese section is just full of cheddar, but different variations of cheddar and brands of cheddar.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how much cheddar can you eat?
Yeah.
And it's,
Although we will say we had a bit of cheddar the other day. The lady had left us some cheddar.
That was Cathedral City cheddar, wasn't it?
Yeah. And Brian was like, oh, it's not as good as New Zealand cheddar.
I'm saying New Zealand, we like the tasty aged. It's 18-month-old or something like that. And that's so tasty. It really is very, very good.
It's tasty, Brian.
I like it. That's why it's called
call
tasty.
It that, tasty.
I think I'll phone them up and say, that word tasty you use is quite good.
But yeah, just that whole, it's a foodie's paradise, isn't it? You can just get whatever you want. Oh, no, wine. The wine is so cheap. Mm-hmm. Isn't it, Brian?
Yep.
Top us up, Brian. No, I'm only kidding.
A bottle of wine for like half decent, pretty, as good as what you'd get back in New Zealand, I would say. And you'll be paying around about €4.50 for something like that. And on special, you can get it even cheaper, And
it's good. Like normally nice if you pay back home in New Zealand, if you pay anything under $8, it's just for cooking, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's, like
it's not just for cooking, but it's just, you wouldn't want to drink it every night because you'd be like, I've had enough of that.
But here, when Bryce said, "Oh, I've got this bottle of wine," it was only €4. I was thinking, "Oh God, I bet that'll be horrible."
Yeah.
But it was really,
it was
really
like
nice.
Cahors, wasn't it? It was really, it was gorgeous.
lovely.
And we've got some Bordeaux's, and I'm trying to think what else I bought as well. But no more than $4.50, $4.60 for a bottle of wine.
I don't know why that is. I don't know why it's
Why
so
is New
cheap.
Zealand wine so expensive?
Yeah, compared to we make our own wine in New Zealand, so why can't we have good bottles of wine for $7 New Zealand?
Yeah, exactly. Why in the country that makes it? Why is it? It's a bit like the milk thing in New Zealand. You pay a lot of money for milk, considering that's mainly our main export. It's just I never really understand it.
Listen to this. I tell you what. Do you know this is just so typical? Well, just to give you a bit of backstory. When you're British and you move to New Zealand, right? All the Brits ever moan about is the bacon in New Zealand. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
They love saying, "Oh, you can't get good bacon," and you can in New Zealand. We just want to put this on record. The bacon is flipping lovely. It's smoked and it's usually streaky. Well, I like the streaky stuff anyway.
You can buy unsmoked as well.
Yeah, you can, but it's delicious bacon.
Yeah.
But we've really struggled coming to France, haven't we, Bri?
You do.
To find decent
I do
bacon.
like a little bit of bacon every now and then.
So now we have turned into the Brits who are in France, from New Zealand, but come to France, moaning about the bacon.
That's it. You can buy it, and it's like comes in a little packet, and it says it's fume and it's streaky, but it's like cooked with a laser beam.
Yeah.
It's like you put it in the pan. It's like, where did it go?
It is delicious.
It is. It's
we
very
had it this
tasty,
morning for
but
our breakfast. I think I've got a little bit of footage. I'll show you. But it's like little tiny thin.
It's so thin though.
It's almost like
not so much the strip as in the streaky, but it's like God knows what they cut it with.
Yeah.
And you pay for 10 tranches. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, and the weather in France, and we're here in May, and it's just,
It is. It's a
divine.
perfect temperature. It's about 21 degrees today, isn't it? In the sun, it feels pretty warm. Not as intense as the New Zealand sun, but it's just you can just see and hear the birds.
Compared to the Belgian people, I think the French people aren't so forgiving when you can't speak their language, I must say. Aren't they? I mean, you've really got to, they're not like,
But you know they can speak it because at the end of the conversation, they go and say something in English to you. And it's just like, well,
what are you talking about?
The French.
I know, but what person?
It's the, what's he called?
I don't know.
The chemist. What do you call a chemist?
God, don't start on that conversation. The pharmacist.
The pharmacist. Oh. This is stupid. You put yourself in front of a camera and you can't think of anything. You just go, oh. And know full well someone's like, oh, it's got to write down to you. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we went in the chemist the other day and we said it was just too difficult to try and even make an effort to say what we wanted to say. We won't say what we were in there for.
No, but it's just
anyway.
like he just goes and tells you what not to do with what you've got.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, you said you couldn't speak English, but you just said perfectly at the end the last sentence.
Yeah, but you know what I think it is, Bri? I think some people they feel...
I suppose if they say yes and you just go blah and you start talking English.
I wasn't going to say
no?
that actually. No, I was going to say I think they feel like embarrassed because they think that English won't be good enough.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. You might just say something to them and they're like, oh, I'm not that
good.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you speak English a little bit? What do you think of the politics that's going on in New Zealand?
Yeah. No, but it's true. Yeah, because if someone says to me, you speak French, I'm like, no, because you're just going to go, yeah.
Anyway, so that was all that then. And then what did I want to talk? Oh, yes. We wanted to talk to you about the whisk.
Oh, the whisk. Yes.
The whisk. Tell them what happened with the car.
Well, what happened was I hadn't tested the lights or anything because we'd only driven it in the day, hadn't we? And literally I picked it up. The next day we were on the Channel Tunnel. So I never got to try the car out properly. So it's a real gamble. Obviously checked oil levels and water levels and all that sort of stuff, but I forgot to test the lights. It just had an MOT, equivalent to a WOF. So you think it passed one last year and then was stored for 9 months or 12 months nearly, and then came out and had to have another MOT and it passed that one as well. So I'm thinking everything should be road legal on it. So we get to a restaurant. We parked it up, went to drive back home. It was around about 10:30 at night. And that's another thing. They eat late in France as well. And Belgium, they eat late.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can eat late.
That's why I love it so much. Because I like eating late.
Yeah, put the headlights on. I'm thinking, geez, these are like little orange glows almost, like, Got out, had a look round. One of the headlights was out. And then I got back in the car and then the windscreen wipers started. And then the fan came on, and then it was just like, what is going on? Turn the engine off, and the fans are on. The engine's now running. It's only been running 2 minutes, and I'm like, and the fog lamps are on, and it's just like, oh, turn the lights off, and everything went off again. So I thought, well, obviously we've got a problem on this. So eventually, just used my brain and thought, it's going to be an earth fault. That's why it's coming back through all the other circuits and this, that, and the other. So it's not getting back to the battery properly on through the negative ground.
Your video?
This is a video, yeah.
This is when you need some real tools, not a $19 or €19 from Lidl's.
Is it doing the job, Bri?
Kind of.
Is it?
But I need to get the things in here and do stuff. Let's just hope this works. Because they're basically trying to put these.
Where did you find that head torch?
There's no reason there. These terminals are supposed to touch the steel of the body of the car, and it's been painted over on either side. So hopefully that's it. But we'll soon find out.
Yeah. It's a good job you're handy, Bri.
I don't know. Sometimes you just think, take to the garage.
Yeah.
You know? But anyway, we'll get there.
So eventually I found 2 connectors, fixed those, scraped the paint off because it's been a nut and bolt restoration, and then put the connectors which are supposed to touch the bare metal back on, and that cured that side of it. But when I was looking at the light, I thought it might just be the light bulb that's gone. Went to take the cap off, and then the light bulb just fell out the back of the light, and you're like, oh. So there's a little metal spring clip thing that holds the bulb in. So I was looking for a bit of fencing around this farm, and then thinking, it needs to be sprung steel. So what can I use? I went in the kitchen and I just saw a little egg whisk sitting there on the side, and thought, that'll do it. So clipped a couple of bits of that off and bent up the spring as a copy from the one on the other side, put it all back in, and it all worked. So I was like so kiwi that I just thought, yeah.
Isn't that kiwi?
Yeah.
What are you going to do, Bri, if you find out that whisk was an inheritance from that lady's great-great-grandmother who's handed it down all those years?
It had a plastic handle, so I don't think it would be.
No, you did say, oh, I can replace the whisk. So
yeah,
that was
it's
easy.
only like a
little cheap
about $5 whisk or something. It wasn't an expensive one.
But I saw Brian, and he was getting so worried, and he was out there and shaking his head like this. Oh. And then all of a sudden, comes in, gets the whisk, and I could see him with his head under the bonnet, light thing. And then when I went back out, he was so happy. In fact, I've got a little bit of video that I'm going to show you, because I actually videoed how happy he was when
I was so happy, because it could have just been anything. Like, it could have been something in the, I don't know, a relay, or it could have been this or that. And then it's just trying to find all that stuff.
Fixed it?
Yep. So happy.
And you did it your Kiwi style, you said, didn't you?
I did Kiwi style, because this, inside the lights, there's a bracket, a little spring that holds the bulb in. No, real Kiwi style, fixed it. It was a piece of whisk wire from the whisk in the kitchen, but
Shush, don't say that. We'll never be invited back.
yeah, but we can replace the whisk, because it has to be like a piece of sprung steel. So number 8 wire would, in too thick, it wouldn't have gone through the holes in the back of the light. But that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
I was fixing those lights with a piece of number 8 wire.
Well done, Brian.
So I'm really happy, because the lights are twice as bright as what they were, because we've got a good earth now.
Show us then. You've done all this work. You're going to at least prove that it works. Ready? Yep, that's good. They're on. Indicators on. Yep.
Yeah.
You've done a good job, Bri.
Yeah, it was just weird, wasn't it? Turn the engine off and the windscreen wipers come on, fan comes on, everything's going.
Yeah.
And it's just cured it. So it would have been amazing.
And you've got to know the car a little bit better as well, which always helps, doesn't
so
it?
we fixed it with a $17 socket set, a torch that my brother gave me on the last world trip, a head torch that I found inside, and that was about it, really.
Yeah.
On a piece of sandpaper.
And you did it in your flip-flops and your jandals.
We made my jandals, and so I'm really hard to get to underneath there. So I've just got to put this last bracket, and even a trusty Barco spanner which I brought with me on the trip,
Oh, did you?
which is a little mini adjustable wrench.
Yeah. Well done, Bri.
That's the only plumbing tool I brought with me.
What's that noise?
It's just the wrenches on the roof.
How much did you pay for that car?
£18,000.
Pounds.
Pounds. Yeah. It's a lot of money, but it's...
You think for
it's
£18,000, Brian,
Yeah.
they'd put the bloody windscreen wipers right.
But it's going up in value. So I bought it in the COVID lockdown, so I got it for a few £1,000s off. So hopefully it should be worth more, and it's going up each year in value. There's a guy who bought an original one in Belgium. It was one of our friends flagged it up to us. He got €80,000 for it.
Oh, imagine that.
80,000 euros. Wow.
We
That's a
wouldn't
lot of
have to
money.
house it
A lot
then,
of money
Brian.
for a 30-year-old car, isn't it? You know.
We wouldn't have to buy €7 wine then if we sold our car and got that much money, would we?
No. So you just think, you know, that's so.
You've added value to that car by fixing
There you go,
it.
fixing the lights properly.
You have, Brian.
Yeah. And I keep looking at it because it's over here, but it's a very pretty little car.
I wish we could just pick it up and bring it and put it in front
I know,
of the
we should have
camera.
parked it behind, shouldn't we?
Oh, we've got loads of video. We can show you
have.
some video of it. So yeah, that was the kiwi thing. Kiwi as that is.
Kiwi as,
isn't it?
Yeah. And talking about that car again, the people who broke the record for it was a guy in Auckland, bought one from the UK at auction for £32,000.
Oh God.
$64,000 at the time, maybe more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was that little thing about the To be honest, not much has happened this week, has it, Bri? It's been a really
No, we haven't seen
quiet-
anyone really. That's why.
Just me and you.
Apart from the pharmacist. Yep.
Just me and you, laid back, just relaxing in France. But what I did want to talk to you about is house sitting.
Yes.
So this is what we're doing. Okay, so 5 years ago, I'd never heard of house sitting, and I don't know if you have, and I'm going to pretend you don't. And I'm sorry if you do, but just pretend you don't because I hadn't. But house sitting is where we go with a company called Trusted House Sitters. So you sign up. If you're the person that's wanting someone to come and look after your house and pets, you sign up as the owner. And if you're the person that wants, like us, who are looking for places to look after, you sign up as the sitter. And it's just this wonderful website that you go on. I think it's about $120 a year, which is so worth it because you make that back literally in your first night that you stay here.
Well, of course you do. Yeah. And when you look at, if you've got, say, 2 dogs and 3 cats or something, to put all those animals in kennels or catteries and things like that, it's going to cost you, it's going to cost you a stack of money, more than what it will for the bit of electric that your house sitters are using when you're there.
So the house sitter, the owner puts their house on and says where their house is in the world, how many pets they've got, what they're looking for, what dates they're looking for, and you, as the sitter, goes, right, okay, I'm in France in May, what houses are there available? You find the house that you're looking for or you want. Sometimes it's really competitive, like if it's like a penthouse apartment in Paris, then you're going to have 30, 40 people going for it.
Yep.
That still doesn't mean you can't do it. And you apply for it with a cover letter, with a letter. We've got photos on our profile. We've got a video on our profile showing our house back in New Zealand.
Yeah, you've got to put all your passport details and all those. Everything's got to be. It's not just like you're not just turning up unvetted.
No,
they go through it like really.
And then
properly.
they shortlist you. The people shortlist you, and then they'll do a Zoom interview with you. And once you've done the Zoom interview, if they choose you, that's it.
Yep.
So we went traveling with the kids in 2018 for a year, 2018, 2019, and we house sat all over the world. And so when we came to Europe, we were like, we're on a budget. Our budget is between 150 and 200 a day, New Zealand dollars. So we're like, how are we going to make this work? Because as you can imagine, that is a difficult budget to stick to. So we're like, okay, well, how about we house sit? Because then we won't have to pay for accommodation. So that's what we're doing. And we've been here for a week, staying in this beautiful 16th century cottage, like you said earlier.
It was a house, like, yeah.
And honestly, I just can't recommend it highly enough. People say to me, oh yeah, but people wouldn't choose us. Honestly, people just want nice, respectable couples or single or even families to come and look after their home. I can't
It's great.
I can't recommend it highly enough.
some-
Oh, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, it
And
has.
it costs you nothing, and you get to see all the local places because they're local. Obviously, they live here. They tell you all about the places around. You know, they say, "Oh, that's the best little cafe. That's the best supermarket to
Yep.
go to," and you're just living in someone else's house, looking after their pets in a beautiful part of the world. It's just. I can't understand why not everyone does
I know,
it.
because
I really
you
can't.
choose where you're going, and if this house is available, then that's it. Like
Yeah.
you know, it's. But you can if you're flexible and you're on a bit of a longer stay,
Yeah.
then it works so well, doesn't it? It's
Well,
it's kind of hard if it's your only 2-week holiday, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, but do you know what? Saying that though, Bri, I've done loads of house sits in New Zealand. I've house sat with Tess in Napier.
Yep.
I've house sat with Mum in Wanganui. Me, you, and the kids went up to Auckland one New Year's.
Snell's
and-
Beach,
Yeah, Snell's
around that
Beach.
way. Yep.
And no, but when we went to Auckland that time on New Year.
Oh
when
yeah,
Sonny
that's
was
right.
doing
Yeah,
that
we
thing.
did. Yeah. That's another twice in Auckland, then, isn't it? Yeah.
We've done so much house sitting in New Zealand.
The one in Ireland, we were looking after a Great Dane, I think 3 Spaniels and 2 Labradors and a cat.
And horses.
Yeah, and a dachshund as well, wasn't
Yeah.
it? You could go riding on the horses as well. You just go and saddle them up and off you go.
So there you go. I'm going to put the link in the description, okay? Just click on it. It doesn't cost you anything to click on the link and just have a look at the houses. Type in wherever you want on the world, in the world rather, and you'll see the sort of houses we're talking about. And like I say, if you wanted to join up, I think it's about $120. I don't know, but it's whatever it is worth every penny.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And we've just got another house sit actually next week. in
Yeah,
a
which
place
is
called
it's
Chinon.
about 3-hour drive from here down in the
Yeah.
Loire Valley, and yeah, so next time we're doing a podcast, we should be coming from that house. I think apparently it was used as a bed and breakfast or something, wasn't it, at one
Yeah.
time? So
And you know what someone said to me as well? They're like, "Oh no, I wouldn't want to," because we've also done loads of couch surfing as well. That's another story. We should do a podcast actually, just saying about how you get free accommodation when you travel.
I know, around the world, because people
Yeah.
go, "No, what free?
I
How can
know.
you can't get free accommodation?"
Yeah.
Well, it's actually you can.
Yeah. But someone said to me, they're like, "Oh no, I wouldn't want to be sleeping in someone else's bed and doing that." And I'm like, "Isn't that what you do when you go to a hotel? You know, aren't you
when
sleeping
you're in a bed and breakfast,
Yeah.
where it's like,
Aren't you sleeping in a bed that hundreds and thousands of other people have slept in
Yeah.
before you? That doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, it's
no,
just,
it doesn't.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, I must admit. You might just be sitting there thinking, "Oh, I can't think of anything worse." But for me personally, I can't think of anything better.
Yeah,
I
but
really can't.
there might be a little bit of awkwardness when you just first meet the people, but really, it's just they want you to do
What's
something.
the most awkward house sit you've ever been to?
I think the one that was just awkward was the one down in Parapamu when
Oh, yeah.
we
New
didn't
Zealand, this
see
is.
them in the evening, but because they were out and we got there, we had pizza. I think we've got a vlog on that,
Oh,
haven't
yeah,
we?
we've done a vlog,
Yeah.
house sitting in that.
And
Go
then
and watch it. I'll put the link up.
The next morning, you wake up and you can hear them outside your bedroom, you know, walking around, and so you've got to go out and meet them, like,
Yeah,
you know. So that was
yeah.
kind of that's just it's not awkward because they're
It was
lovely
a bit
people,
awkward, Brian,
but it just
because
feels awkward at first.
It was like we were sleeping in their house and they hadn't met us until
Yeah.
the morning. It was like we came upstairs in the morning. They had an upside down house, and it was like morning. And it was almost like, "Who are you?" You know, it was just
Hello.
That was a bit weird,
Yeah.
but gorgeous house sit and a lovely cat. And
Yeah.
I'm going to put that video after this one. I'll
Yeah.
put it as a watch
Parker.
next.
Parker
If you
the
haven't
cat.
watched that, go and watch it. It's
Yeah.
lovely. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
about it, really, isn't
It
it?
is.
Bri?
Yeah, that's our first week in France.
Yeah.
So
Just forgot how gorgeous this country is.
yeah, France is a great place.
Really, really lovely.
The weather makes a huge difference, but
It does.
in May it is normally like this anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. And also what I love as well, in New Zealand, the sun is so harsh. It eats your skin, doesn't it?
It does. It really
you
does.
can't go
Yeah.
out really in the midday sun. Only mad dogs and Englishmen do that.
Yep.
But here in France, and I know it's only May, but even so, you know.
Well, May is like there's only another month to the solstice in June, isn't it? So you know it doesn't get any more intense than what it does in May, June, and July.
No.
In Europe.
But it's just softer. It's just a softer heat.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the mornings are just cool and the midday sun is just softer, but
Yeah.
still
it's
hot.
very hot.
I mean, that's why we're not sitting out in
Yeah.
it now, but
Yeah, but we went for a walk today around midday, and it was just like wow. When we got to the little road, we went through all these lanes and things, and it was just like it got to the main road. There's no shade. It was like whoa, it's hot. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, we will say au revoir for now. And thank you for watching, and thank you for being here. Tell us if you're enjoying these podcasts with the, we're trying to do a podcast and put bits of footage over it. And we're thinking, is this working? Do people like it? So tell us what you think. If you stay this long,
then you're a good
fan.
Faithful fan.
Yeah. If you have stayed this long, just let us know. Yeah. That would really help us out. Just what you think of the format. But until next time, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Kia kaha, stay strong. Kia u, stay true, and au revoir.
And don't drink Normandy cider when you're trying to say kia kaha, because you get it wrong.
Yeah, kia kaha.
No.
Okay.
See you now. Bye.
Bye.
In this week's show, we're going on our travels. We're going from New Plymouth down to Paraparaumu, and we're house sitting. If you've never house sat in New Zealand, you are going to love this show. It's a brilliant way to see different parts of the country, to drink lots of wine, and to have lots of food, and just to pretend you're a really good travel vlogger. So let's go.